One of the places where I think that Worldwide Electric really excels as a manufacturer is in servicing customers who are participating in the MRO portion of the business. So that's maintenance, repair, and operations. And while that in and of itself is a broad term that covers a whole lot of different scope, um, when it comes to electric motors and gear reducers, and at least a certain segment of kind of the industry and end user customers, um, a lot of what MRO can stand to mean is unplanned repairs, unplanned maintenance, and being a resource for people who realize they have a problem today that needs to be solved yesterday.
Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industries. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Charli Matthews. I've had a wonderful season of going through the Industry Access Behind the Scenes series. It's been so much fun. And so, if you've got a cool plant or have some friends that do, let me know about it. But that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to introduce you to some amazing people. So, Tyler, jump on here and introduce yourself.
Yes, Tyler Madden. I'm a district sales manager for Worldwide Electric. And at Worldwide Electric, we're a manufacturer of electric motors, gear reducers, and motor control products. Now, in my role at Worldwide Electric, I cover a territory that encompasses Northern California and Northern Nevada. And this is kind of a natural place for me to be working in the electric motor world because I grew up in my family's what we call in the motor world an EASA shop, which stands for the Electrical Apparatus Service Association, which is our trade organization in the rotating equipment world. And so I kind of have a background in both the Northern California area and also in the rotating equipment sphere.
Yeah, we love EASA. I got to go there this year. It was in Nashville. That was a lot of fun. And your booth was amazing there, by the way. But the thing about California, I was out there actually last week, and there's a lot of industry that you don't really think about, right? And so, tell us how you got into the industry. You mentioned a little bit about your family company, but I was most interested to hear a little bit more about what coffee and denim was all about.
Sure. Well, my path to the industry is, I would say, very unique in that even though I share something with many people in that I'm not first generation by any stretch of the imagination, I would actually say that I'm third generation specifically to the electric motor industry. But it wasn't a straight path at all. Um, I was very fortunate growing up that my father, well, let me take a step back. I say I'm third generation, and usually that means granddad, dad, then me. But in my case, my dad at the age of 14, um, in kind of a fit of inspiration one day, went to his father, who was in the cutting machine sales business, and said, "Dad, is it okay with you if I don't do what you're doing? I want to do what Uncle Rex does." And Uncle Rex owned the motor shop that my dad one day bought out and is the family business. And so my dad, having had that experience and being cognizant of needing to take his own path and follow his own passion, was really considerate about that from an early age. And so instead of pushing me in the direction of taking on the family business and spending a lot of time doing the work that he found interesting, he really encouraged me to follow my own passions. And I'm very fortunate for that. And so I went to college straight out of high school, ended up studying English literature, which I figured would foray into further academic pursuits, maybe business school, maybe law school. I was keeping my options open, but I liked reading books, so it made sense. And I graduated from college in 2008, which, if any of you remember, that wasn't the best time to be entering the job market. And I stumbled into working in extraordinarily high-end coffee service in Los Angeles. Um, And and that kind of totally diverted me from following a path further into academia. Um, When I got into coffee, I was really in love with the coffee itself as a connoisseur and, for the quality of the coffee. But what I found at working in a high-end hospitality focused cafe was that I actually loved the cafe aspect of it and the people and the community that forms around that. And that was kind of that was an eye opener for me in a lot of different ways. Um,
And like it's
eh,
just fun. I mean, I saw kind of one of your interests being a book reader. And so like to
mhm.
be in there, even on your time off, you can have your own coffee, read a book, and you're going to see that community, right?
That's exactly right. And because I travel a lot for my job now, one thing that I learned when I was in the coffee world and that, is still super valuable to this day is basically anywhere in any community, whether it's a big city or a small town, there's always a group of people that coalesce around that coffee shop. And so, whether I want to go and meet people or if I just want to hang out and get some work done, but have an atmosphere about me, whether it's a high-end, high quality, fancy coffee shop in a big city, or sometimes it's a Starbucks, in a small out of the way place. There's still people getting together, drinking coffee and enjoying kind of waking up and getting after the day together. And I love that part of it.
Yeah, we have a little community here that does that. It's just around the corner. I mean, I could be there in 5 minutes, right? It's so convenient. Probably 2 minutes, but anyway. Well, okay. So from that in back into your company business, tell me about that.
Sure. So basically, after spending about a decade in both coffee and in denim, I um, I was looking at doing some different things. I was kind of in a transitionary period, and it was also getting to be a an inflection point at the family's business where, although my dad's still very much involved in the day to day, he's running the business and is still very much you know working with his hands and doing what he loves. We started to realize that it was time to start making provisions for the next generation to take a bigger part of the day to day operations. And it worked out that both my brother and I, who were working in coffee in Portland, Oregon at the time, made sense for us to move home and spend basically a year kind of learning and internalizing the processes of the business, learning more about the industry, because even though I grew up around it and knew a fair amount about it, there are a lot of the ins and outs that I didn't know. So I spent about a year working at the family business, kind of drinking from a fire hose, as I say, um, just learning a ton about motors, the industries, the different applications, and also helping get the office, kind of the business side of the business, ready for um, my sister to take over. My sister is a little bit younger than I am. Um, and at the end of that year that I spent doing that, had a chance encounter with a regional sales manager from Worldwide Electric who was traveling. He was making a sales call on, I think, the second or third to last day I was working at my dad's shop. And on his way out the door, almost as an afterthought, he turned around and said, "By the way, I'm hiring somebody for the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. If you know anybody, please let me know." And I think I scared him because I don't think he realized that I said, "Hey, I'm leaving. I'm moving away. I'm moving to the Pacific Northwest next week, but I'd be interested in talking for it." I think he was scared he was going to upset my dad, like he was taking he was taking somebody out of the family business. But my dad said, "No, I know he's leaving. Like you should go ahead and talk to him." And it worked out great. I found a great home for me that's been a really good fit, and yeah, that's what I've been after ever since.
I love that so much. And those moments, those chance encounters, of course, I see signs and purpose and all of that. So we're glad that you're in the industry. And you mentioned EASA, and I know I was talking to Linda on here about how it is for business owners and training and education. So, still able to get that piece of the industry that you don't maybe know or you grew up with, but it can be taught too. So there's lots of ways of getting that knowledge. But you're out there, you're selling motors. Is there anything that you can tell us, a fun project or anything like that that you're working on?
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a project so much as a pursuit or an undertaking, but something that I've really been enjoying lately is kind of immersing myself in the food processing world. And in California, the food, saying food processing it's deep and wide. It means a lot of different things. But, one of the places where I think that Worldwide Electric really excels as a manufacturer is in servicing customers who are participating in the MRO portion of the business. So that's maintenance, repair, and operations. And while that in and of itself is a broad term that covers a whole lot of different scope, um, when it comes to electric motors and gear reducers, and at least a certain segment of kind of the industry and end user customers, um, a lot of what MRO can stand to mean is unplanned repairs, unplanned maintenance, and being a resource for people who realize they have a problem today that needs to be solved yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've just been kind of enhancing my chops, learning more about the different ins and outs of equipment and applications and processes. I think another reason that I like um, food processing specifically is for a motor application, it's a little bit unique. I would say that most applications out there where you're using an electric motor, the design considerations that you're thinking about for the motor are really, really driven by some basic factors like what the application is and what the environment that it's operating in. Is it dusty? Is it outdoors? How many hours a day is the motor running, et cetera, et cetera. In the food processing industry, one of the biggest design factors or one of the biggest things that you're considering when you're figuring out how to apply a motor to a certain application or a certain installation is what kind of sanitary washdown procedure and process it's undergoing. And so it's just a very unique world and unique application in terms of product design, and also in terms of sometimes the original equipment manufacturer puts a motor on that is perfectly suitable for everything that they anticipate that machine to be doing, but they're not anticipating the sanitation crew coming around with a 5,000 psi pressure washer because that's not a standard practice. So my job is kind of finding those trouble applications and helping people find solutions to problems.
Yeah, and I see that process side of you in the coffee all over that too, because I visit coffee shops, but one of the ones the big one that's in Seattle, and walking through that was it's just like I didn't know that this existed, right? And it's a process. So looking for all the different types of food processing that is in California too, it's huge. You can't. You can't ride down the road very far without running into one of them. Well, good. I'm glad that they have you out there on the West Coast doing the work. Is there anything else you want to leave our audience with?
Um, I think it's just that something that I've really enjoyed and appreciated over my career thus far is getting to travel and see and learn industries all over. I mean, I something I'll share with you that I didn't get a chance to tell you when we were talking before you pressed play was that I'm a listener to the Empowering Industry podcast. You know, I spend a lot of windshield time in my job, and even though I know a lot of people in kind of my own segment of the industry in the motor world, I know a lot of my competitors, I know a lot of my customers and people that are attached to that. The industry at large is so much bigger than that. And so it's so cool to have a place to come and listen to um, other people who have experiences that are so varied from my own, total different segments, total different, product portion or even just not focused on product at all. But they're still very much a part of the industry. And so kind of hearing their stories and learning what's going on in their world is always a real neat thing to be able to do while I'm buzzing down the road at 70 miles per hour. So,
Yeah, well, I
uh,
love that. Thanks for sharing that with us, and it
yeah.
keeps me going. I really appreciate the feedback there, um, and the cool people I get to meet, right? And I love hearing these stories and how you got here. So that's wonderful. Now, I can't let you go without any rapid fire though, because you are a reader, and I have to know what is your favorite book?
Sure. So I think my all-time favorite book, literature edition, it's one of the books that I read a ton in college. I essentially, I mean, my degree is in English, but my focus was in the literature of Mark Twain, and a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court is probably my favorite book. I think it's, kind of the one of the prototypical science fiction novels. It has some science fiction aspects to it, but he also just does a great job at satire. And I think one of the things that was super amazing about Mark Twain is that not only was he funny, but he was really, really good at holding a mirror up to specifically Americans, but I think people in general, and showing us what was great about us, but also that there was plenty to laugh about too. And I think that's healthy for people.
Absolutely. I did a Mark Twain. They had like a play when I was in elementary school, and I'll never forget those. It was just fun and funny and all that stuff. I still sing some of the songs from that. What about, well, I didn't play in that, but what about music? What is your favorite music?
I mean, I have always really, really loved music. I DJ'd a lot of hip hop and rap in my early years. I played in some, different kinds of rock bands in high school and college. Um, these days, a lot of times, I'm listening to Vivaldi, which is not because I am a particularly well-versed listener to classical music. It's because I have a 15-month-old daughter, and we've discovered that she absolutely loves violin music. And so that's one of the things that she likes to put on. And as I've put it on and listened to it and repeated and repeated and repeated, I'm starting to become a fan.
Yeah, and you can put that on and just work, and it's not as distracting as some of the others with words. Uh, I'm going to
Correct.
ask you about your daughter. I couldn't help myself. It was on my list. What, I'll ask you this. What is the best advice you've ever received?
And there's so much of it, and I've been so fortunate to have so many mentors that have given me so much good specific advice. But I think as a piece of general advice that anybody can use and apply is, you know, it's it's good to learn from your own mistakes, but it's even better to learn from other people's. And I don't mean that to come across as cynical. That's not to take advantage of other people's mistakes. It's that, as an observer, or at least for me, I'm a very empathetic person. I hate seeing other people go through difficult things. It hurts me too. And so, I've both figure that, yeah, I look for silver linings in everything. So if I see something that's unfortunate, the best thing I think I can do from being witness to that is try to take the lesson, not just as the observer, but try to see and kind of take the perspective of the person experiencing it, and not make that same mistake twice. And
So
that's something I try to pass on to people too, when I make mistakes, which is it's not as rare as I would like it to be. Try to help it be, an educational moment for other people as well.
awesome. So I'm going to ask you a little bit of a different question because I'm just super curious what your answer will be.
Sure.
But as a girl dad now, and I guess my question is, would you encourage her to be in the industry?
Well, I already know that I already know that, similar to what I was describing with you about my father, and how he was very good about not really trying to push me into a direction. Um, Whether I do encouraging or discouraging or not, it's probably not going to make much of a difference with this specific little girl, because
I
she.
think it's awesome how we like show motors and valves and pumps to our children.
Mhm.
Like it, I don't know what we expect them to do as children, but like we're like introducing them to it, right?
Sure, but what I will tell you is, I certainly would, encourage or facilitate any kind of, interest or pursuit in the industry or in the trades. And, it's hard to tell at 15 months, but she is so fascinated by anything that has, a mechanism to it, power tools. I mean, just last night, her mom was oiling up and fixing up an old sewing machine at grandma's house. And when she got to the end where she started to actually turn the machine on and run the machine, is like, you know, went from my daughter over somewhere else playing to like trying to crawl up mama's lap to to
Yep.
to see what the machine was and what that sound was. So I think we might have some technical interest and aptitude on our hands.
Yeah, and musical too. That side too. Well, of course you can't tell, but it's fun to think about. Well, Tyler, thank you for your time today and just letting me into your world, sharing your story with all of us. If somebody's looking to get in touch with you, how should they do that?
Sure. I mean, I'm pretty easy to find. Tyler Madden, Worldwide Electric will probably shoot you to my LinkedIn profile. You
Perfect.
know, yep, that usually gets it done. I'm out here. I'm a salesperson, so I'm easy to find.
Yeah, yeah. So y'all reach out to Tyler and yeah, I am just thankful for your time today and everybody else share this episode. I hope you're having a great fall wherever you are. And until next time, be empowering.